Yes, my name is David Grigsby. I'm a physical therapist here in Memphis, Tennessee. I came up to the University of Tennessee Health Science Center from Louisiana, where I grew up, and didn't know anything about MDT at the time. My last clinical internship I did for the University of Tennessee was at an outpatient orthopedic clinic here, and two of their practitioners were MDT trained clinicians. So I got a taste of MDT with them when previous clinical rotations were all manual therapy, ultrasound, E-stim. So I went from this real hands-on approach to watching literally my first patient at this clinical rotation, the therapist never touching the guy and making his arm pain go away, his motion get better, going, whoa, this is completely opposite of what I had envisioned this last rotation being. And in fact, for about 2 weeks, I was really mad and frustrated because I hadn't learned anything really about it in school. I didn't understand how you could do something so simple to make big changes, when before it seemed a little bit crazy having to try to work through everything and guess what was helping. This really brought it down to, hey, this is why this is helping, this is why this isn't helping, and here's how you change. So I got a taste of MDT my last clinical internship and actually got hired there, and then went through the process of credentialing while I was there, and then opening my own practice with a friend of mine back in 2007 with the basis and the philosophy being on MDT. Absolutely. So my history with telehealth goes back a long ways. Most MDT clinicians or physical therapists in general, I've had a friend or a family member call them and say, my back is killing me today. What do I do for it? And as an MDT clinician, you don't just say, hey, do this. You tend to ask a few questions, understand what's going on, and then that leads into how you treat them, even over the phone. And we've done this all for years. Every physical therapist has, or at Thanksgiving dinner, wherever it may be. So a few years back, probably 9 or 10 years ago, we were having quite a bit of people just calling and asking questions. I'm hurting here, patients following up with a phone call saying, this is really bothering me, what do I do for it? And so we decided we'd start doing some telehealth visits through Skype and a couple of other ways, just to try to meet the needs of people where they are. We had friends that are across the country, family members. So we were doing it just kind of on a global scale. There really wasn't anything specific about it. Then we started incorporating it more into our practice about 8 years ago. We started using a platform that was more HIPAA compliant. There wasn't just Skype. It allowed us to actually get paid for the visits. It was an interesting time back then because there really wasn't any specific law to it. Like when 2015 hit, there was over 200 pieces of legislation that hit for telehealth. So things really got narrowed down to your own state. Before that, you could kind of see people wherever they were, charging cash for it, not insurance. And some people still do that. But our history goes way back to even 8 or 9 years ago when we started implementing it as a strategy to meet people's needs wherever they were. Yeah, 100%. And the conversations I've had, even over the last month, as I've been working with other clinicians on trying to help them get started on telehealth, understand telehealth a little bit better, and know how they can work it into their practice, is if their practice already was not conducive towards telehealth, the transition's been a lot tougher. And what I mean by that is, if patients' expectations of therapy has always been to go to that therapist to get the hands-on treatment they've always needed and always been told they were needed, and then all of a sudden there was that about flip of, well, actually, we don't have to do that. I can see it through a telehealth visit, still get paid for it. And the patient's like, well, wait a minute. You've always told me this is what I need to get where I want to go and to achieve my goals. And now you're telling me I don't have to do that. And so that's been a big frustration to a lot of clinicians, but MDT clinicians know that it's based on the history taking that you take with a patient. It's based on the assessment, and then the treatment is, essentially patient-generated movements first. So it's very conducive to telehealth. You get a good assessment. You speak back and forth, understand a little bit about it. You can perform the assessment by having people move and test things with patients without having to do nearly as much hands-on. And then the treatment is patient-generated movements first. So it's a beautiful transition, especially for MDT clinicians, because it's very conducive to telehealth. And you're not having to about face on your patients either and feel like you're telling them a lie as far as where we're going with this. It's just very smooth into the transition. I would say telehealth is definitely a process. I think that would probably be the #1 frustration for any therapist the last month who's thought, hey, I'm going to start a telehealth practice. I'm going to start seeing all these people. It's not that easy. And marketing it and pushing it, 90% of my business is still in office and only 10% is telehealth. Now that's shifted dramatically over the last month and a half because we've been able to transition people who didn't want to come in or who didn't feel safe coming in easily to telehealth based on how we do things, the way that we practice. But historically, it's not been this. Everybody wants telehealth. Everybody wants to be wherever they are. They still have that mentality of, I want to come see you. I want to be in front of you. Kind of like folks still hang on to, I need an image. They still have that predisposition towards wanting to see you, wanting to be touched by you, felt by you as far as the assessment and the treatment. It's still kind of foreign to them to get something that's more like this, like we're doing right now from a conversational standpoint. I think some things are really important. Number one is understanding your state laws. The Center for Connected Health Policy is a great website. You can check to see the state laws in all 50 states. It helps you a great deal to understand where you can start. Some folks want to have a telehealth only business right now. Some states require an in-office visit first before you can start that. So if your mentality was, I'm just going to jump into telehealth and do that 100%, but if your state requirements or the insurance requirements that you're going through require an in-office visit, then you've got to make sure you meet that so you can get paid and so you're not in violation of the Practice Act in your state. So you need to know your state laws first. The second thing is understand if insurance pays. There are parity laws in most states now, especially with COVID-19, which means that the insurance will pay the same for a telehealth visit as they will for an in-office visit. But again, the Center for Connected Health Policies, evisits.com, some different places like that will let you know if insurance covers for telehealth in your state and how well they do. Of course, knowing that Medicare doesn't cover it yet, still a frustration. I know there's a lot of people moving things in the works to get people covered by telehealth, but it doesn't mean you can't still see Medicare patients through telehealth. You may need to do it as a service to them right now where you're not getting paid, or if you connect with those who give you counsel and the counsel says that you can charge cash for that, then maybe you can do that if you're comfortable with that and as long as you feel comfortable with the law there. But knowing your state laws, knowing if your insurance pays for it, knowing platforms, there are a million different platforms out there, making sure a platform is convenient to a patient and then it's actually good, because you can get a lot of platforms that connectivity stinks and you have a ton of trouble with it getting booted or having glitches. So making sure that platforms are good are also very important. And then collecting payment wise, having a good EMR system or a system that allows you to schedule, collect payments up front so you're not doing visits and people are disappearing off the face of the earth. As a clinician, you still need to make a living even in this time, and having a good way and resources to do that are very important. So knowing your state laws, knowing your insurance laws, looking for a good platform that's convenient and effective, and then making sure that you can get paid. Those things are really important. It's what I've been encouraging people to make sure they're looking into before they just jump right into it, because those are definitely some pitfalls you can fall into if you don't know those different laws and know those different situations first before you jump in. I think early on, probably the biggest struggle was Wi-Fi connectability for most people. So you could have the greatest Wi-Fi in your clinic, it could be amazing, and the person on the other side in no-name country town could have hardly anything, and it's just a pixelated mess that keeps getting dropped. So that's improved a lot because Wi-Fi connectability and even like 4G or 5G in some areas really help connectability for people on their phone. So that was an early struggle, just connectability. Now that that's improving, it's making things a whole lot better. Platform at first was really tough. So people had to go through all these different steps just to connect with you. Now you have platforms where you can literally just send a link to the person. They click on that link and they're connected right to you without any extra steps. And there's some setup to help them understand how to make sure that their video and their audio are set up. So things like that are a big deal. I think the biggest thing though is expectation, helping people now understand expectations when it comes to a telehealth call, what it should look like, how it should feel, helping them understand we're coming into your home without coming into your home. So it's cool if your dog wants to be all over the camera and all over you. We're not going to freak out about that. It's okay if your kid's screaming in the background. You might let your spouse know that before they come walking out in their underwear that you're on a video call with somebody that's not normally in your house. We've had those kind of things happen here even recently, so it's always makes for a good laugh and a struggle. But expectations for patients, helping them understand that, look, the way we treat and assess people is the same way we're going to treat and assess you online. We're going to take you through a thorough history, a thorough assessment, and we're going to give you a treatment plan that meets your needs based on certain criteria. That way there's not a false sense of, well, I should be getting this, but I'm not. they understand that. So expectations are key for people transitioning into telehealth, and key for our patients to help us go forward smoothly. I think I've spoken to it a little bit, but encouraging people that, especially with telehealth, if that's something you're interested in, not only in the short term, but for the long term, MDT gives you an amazing base, an amazing platform to build off of that because of the history. There's so much focus on history and understanding the patient's need before you jump into the assessment treatment. The assessment and treatment are patient-generated movements first, patient-led first. So it's very conducive to telehealth. That's so huge. I can't tell you how big that is with a lot of therapists right now struggling to transition patients to telehealth because people just don't have those expectations like they should, or they haven't been treated in a way that's conducive. So I know I've said that many times, but I've heard it 100 times the last month. So encouraging people to treat in a way that's conducive. MDT really helps with that. And to know that there are people in MDT that have been doing this for years. And I don't know who else you've interviewed, but folks like Adine Turner, who's a virtual physical therapist, who literally right now is helping hundreds of therapists stay in business because of her model of using MDT to meet people's needs wherever they are. I feel like Rob Vining, who's an MDT clinician, who's been doing a Facebook group now for years, giving out great content to help people connect. There's so many MDT clinicians. Mark Miller, that everybody knows in the MDT world, has been working with his company to do telehealth for Michelin and others. It's been used for a long time. This is not something new that MDT clinicians are just now jumping into. They've been doing it for a long time. They've been meeting needs. They've kind of plowed the ground to prepare for this current time that we're in. And it's helping a ton of therapists as a result of that. So a lot of good people doing a lot of good work in the MDT world to really meet people's needs, but also therapists' needs right now where they are, especially as they're struggling to see patients and know patients. It's giving them avenues and it's giving them platforms to still make a living. So there's a lot of kudos that can go around MDT clinicians right now.